Some people will probably negatively judge us for this, but tonight we're going to go out and feed food to raccoons and attempt to give them life coaching advice. For those who don't know, my name is Brendan, and I post a lot of nature videos, and I'm a mental toughness coach. And tonight we're going to teach the raccoons all about how to turn negative judgmental tendencies into acceptance and compassion to develop a more peaceful heart. The ancient poet Rumi once said, "Beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." A very profound statement. We'll unpack what it's all about and have some fun feeding those little rascals. Let's go see who's out there. Okay, welcome to another Raccoon Rambles. Welcome to Raccoon Rambles. I just broke the chair. Today, we're going to talk to the raccoons about why it's a bad idea to give in to our negative judgmental tendencies. First of all, guys, it is so much easier just to love everybody and love everything without having to analyze and judge. Whenever we negatively judge others, notice this: it increases the disturbing energy within you. When we negatively judge others, it gets us worked up. If we want to be happy and peaceful, it's in our best interest to overcome those negative judgmental tendencies. And think about it this way. When people are negatively judged, does it really help them be better? Or does it just make them more hostile? You know, there's a saying, judgment harms, love heals. What are we really here to do? If we're here to help other people, we really need to start by helping ourselves and going to war against those judgmental tendencies inside of us. You know, if you want to be the best version of yourself, you have to replace judgment for compassion and universal acceptance for all. Another thing is that when we practice negatively judging and criticizing others, we're building up those negative critical muscles. And eventually it turns on us. Our self-talk, our dialogue becomes more negative towards us. And it's distracting us from putting out energy where it could be more useful. Instead of finding faults with others, we could be busy mending our own faults. So it's a form of spiritual bypassing, if you ask me. Come on. Another reason is that it reinforces arrogance. It reinforces the idea that we are qualified to judge others when we aren't really. You know, it almost gives us that God complex. You can only judge from a place of total knowing. That's when you can only really judge. And people judge us for judging. That's another funny thing with it too. It actually creates a lot of negative karma. Judge not, yet ye be judged. Anyway, what do you all think at home? Throw it into the comments. Why is it a good idea for us to overcome negative judgmental tendencies? Let's talk about common examples of when we get caught negatively judging people. I think one common one is when we'll criticize people who have undesirable or unacceptable behaviors to us. Their fashion or their taste in music. We may have a negative view of their hygiene, the car they drive. We may consider their behavior unacceptable, but that's still just our own preferences. Even if they are doing a lot of things wrong in their life, you know, who are we to say that they shouldn't be going through that right now? Through the wrong way of living, don't we learn to appreciate the right way of living? Have you at home learned a lot through your own mistakes very memorable lessons? Who are we to say others shouldn't go wrong? Sometimes we negatively judge others because of comparison and competition. And so we want to create a sense of superiority over others and feel better about ourselves by knocking others down. It's a very common tendency when it comes to judgment. Sometimes we negatively judge others out of a sense of resentment because other people have something we want, or they're being something we want to be. And so out of resentment, we turn that into a hostile judgment. Oh, hello. Come on up. One of the main things we may negatively judge others for is when their behavior reminds us of our own shortcomings. It triggers something in us. If we're unreliable and not punctual, we may negatively judge them for being that way. If we don't listen to feedback and suggestions, we may negatively judge others who don't listen to us. So it's a little trick of the ego, but as I like to say, the ego is not your amigo, We tend to have a tendency to make terrible decisions when the ego gets involved, don't we? So why should we love and accept others? Well, one thing I think is that, in the same way that we have sympathy and compassion for people that are physically ill, maybe we should have sympathy and compassion for those who are mentally unwell, as in mentally confused. People who don't know right from wrong. I mean, the people who are confused deserve more compassion, not less, don't they? We're going to talk about the 7 attitude adjustments that can help us have a peaceful heart by not judging others. Now, number 1 is to realize we are not qualified to judge. We really need to do a deep think about that. What do you think? What might we say about this? We might say that we don't know anyone's full story. We might know what's happened to them on the outside in their life, but we don't even know what was going on inside of them. We don't know the thoughts they were going through, the stories they were telling themselves, the pressure they were putting themselves through. Oh, look at you. We don't know their full story. With these raccoons, when I first met them, the mom had broken my bird feeder. I didn't know she was a mom. I didn't know she was desperate to feed her little ones. I'm glad I had compassion on her instead of negative judgment, because after being nice to her, she introduced me to her little babies and we made friends. But I get it. She was just trying to feed. So we don't know the full story of what anyone's going through. We're not qualified to judge. Another thing is that we're not perfect yet. So we shouldn't judge if we're not perfect in ourselves, because then we bring our own biases into the situation. We bring our own insecurities into it. That clouds our judgment. So we make inappropriate judgments. As Yogananda once said, until we are perfect in ourselves, the only profitable analysis is to judge oneself. And another point is, who are we to say that other people should not be exactly as they are in this moment in their life? For example, just think about all the difficult moments you've gone through in your life and how it's helped you be who you are today. Think about all the bad attitudes you've gone through and perspectives and beliefs you've gone through and how that's shaped you into what you are today. Who are we to say that others shouldn't be able to learn through the school of hard knocks if they want to? right? We can't see across all space and time to know what their soul needs to go through, what lessons they, hello, sweetheart, what lessons they need to learn. Who are we to say that they shouldn't be as they are right now? I mean, suffering is one of the best ways we learn. So even if they're going wrong in life, the wrong way helps us learn to appreciate the right way. So we should just trust it's their journey. Attitude number 2. How are we similar to those we judge? How are we similar to those we judge? We really need to reflect on that. What do you think? I think for one, we are all pilgrims from ignorance to understanding in all things. And it's easy for us to look back on people that are still learning things that we've already learned previously. We need to see their innocence and all that. Because we're all just doing the best we can with what we know, and when we know better, we would do better. And people may say to me, oh yeah, but I did know better, but the truth is your behavior shows where your true vote was. So even though a part of you might have thought, oh, this isn't a good idea, I shouldn't be like this, most of you thought it was a good idea, and that's why you went through with it. And everything bad we do seems like a good idea at the time. I heard this from Asha Nayaswami once. She said this line, and I thought it was wonderful. Everything bad we do seems like a good idea at the time. And because of that, I'm just as capable of the bad things they've done because I can think a bad idea is a good idea. I can be confused. I can be deluded. So I need to realize I'm just like them. Number 3 is we really need to view life as an experiment that we're all going through. All of our behaviors and choices are experiments. We're seeking happiness in many different directions. We try things, maybe it fails, we try something else. All experience is valuable. So, when I see somebody experimenting with a bad attitude or behavior, my initial thought is, isn't that cute? They think that's a good idea. Isn't that cute? That's cute. They think it's a good idea. They're still running that experiment, and all the research isn't in yet. They need to suffer more through it before they finally come to the conclusion, this behavior doesn't work for me. I'm going to change my ways. Think about how long it's taken you to change your attitude on some things in life. Change your mindset. These things take time, and people change best when they change in their own time and in their own way. That's when they change best. You can't rush it. You can't rip the skin off the snake. It's got to molt the skin in its own time, The next one, number 4, is why should we respect everyone no matter what? Why should we respect everyone no matter what? Well, let me put it this way. If you're walking through a forest and you see a tree that's bent kind of weird, you know what I'm talking about. You wouldn't negatively judge it and be like, why do you have to be bent that way? You might just understand that trees do that because they're trying to get to the hole in the canopy because they're not getting enough light. So I would submit to you that some people are bent out of shape because they didn't get enough light either. And that would be the light of love and wisdom. Also, everybody deserves respect because it's not where they are, it's where they're going that matters, and they're all a work in progress. And there's a higher potential sleeping within that soul, even if you can't see it yet. We need to appreciate the divine potential within them. As Yogananda says, a saint is a sinner that never gave up. Many of these people that are most difficult in our lives, they've just really committed themselves to really disharmonious patterns. It shows they have the power of commitment. Now, if they were simply to commit themselves to very harmonious, loving patterns instead, they would be very saintly. You wouldn't be able to talk them out of it. A saint is a sinner that never gave up. So we should respect everyone no matter what. It's not where they are, it's where they're going, and they all have great potential to be virtuous. You know, we all have to go from being white belts to black belts at being human. We start off at the beginner level, make lots of mistakes, but we work our way up. We are all evolving souls. And that's why we all deserve respect. Everybody's a work in progress. That's what we really need to reflect on. And it's painful to live the wrong way. And that pain is going to ever nudge us to get back on track in life. The next attitude adjustment we need to have is we need to see how negative judgments are a projection of what's going on inside of us. Whenever we're pointing our finger and finding faults in others, there's 3 fingers pointing back at us. Now, the expectations of society have probably told you you're supposed to be a lot more than you are right now. Societal expectations have really raised the bar too high for all of us. You know, and I'm sorry that that's happened. And sometimes this creates an inadequacy within us that gets triggered. And when that happens, I encourage you to find that part of yourself that got triggered and just pour love into it. Because love is what can heal all that inadequacy and lack of acceptance. You know, when we're negatively judging others, we're suggesting, I'm okay and you're not okay. Or I'm okay and everyone else is not okay. And that's proof that we're not okay on the inside, because when we are okay on the inside, everything on the outside seems okay. Because we see it all as a part of God. And we see all of it as playing an important role in the human story. You can't have heroes without villains. You can't have cops without robbers. You can't have saints without sinners, as the saying goes. When we are right on the inside, everything seems right to us on the outside. We realize this cosmic human drama needs, good and evil alternating in supremacy to keep the play going and keep it interesting. A lot of times our negative judgment is the result of fear on the inside. If we're negatively judging others, we should ask ourselves, what am I afraid of and what would it take for me to get over that fear? Many times we're just wanting to protect ourselves so that we'll be loved. And so we're trying to protect our self-image. And we're negatively judging others to feel better about ourselves. The idea is that you chop off everyone else's head so you appear taller. That's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is to give love to receive love. A lot of times our negative judgment is a thwarted desire. When we're negatively judging others, we should ask ourselves, what do I actually want from this person? What do I really want in this situation? Many times, we just don't want others to be that successful. Because our sense of self-worth is too attached to comparison and measuring ourselves against others when it shouldn't be. Because that's just apples and oranges, because we're all so different in so many ways, and we all have the universe has a different song to sing through all of us. A lot of times this negative judgment is really our resentments. We resent others for having or being what we want. So when we're negatively judging, it all comes down to realize how it's a reflection of something going on inside of us. And whatever that is, that part of you is, just send it love. Step 7 is we need to have a plan to best move forward. And I think a good first step is to see the innocence of everybody. So let's say you're walking down the street and you see a blind man walking. And the blind man knocks a child over. Would you consider the blind man a child beater? Yes or no? Probably not, because he's blind, right? He couldn't see what he was doing. In the same way, it can be really helpful to us to see how other people are blind to higher wisdom. They're blind to a better way of acting and thinking. And we need to see their innocence in that way. Baby. And also it helps for us to see the best in them. Because when we see the best in others and we appreciate the best in others, it heightens that sense of virtue within us. What we see in others and appreciate in others tends to grow in us. It can be really helpful to turn judgment into curiosity. Instead of criticizing others, just ask yourself, I wonder what makes them do what they do. You know, I wonder what they're going through. Right? Try to imagine what it's like to be them. As the saying goes, we shouldn't judge people till we walk a mile in their shoes. Just be like, I wonder what it's like to be them. Really turn it into curiosity. Another thing to do that's really helpful and really helps us grow into the best version of ourselves is to turn judgment into compassion. Try to feel what they're feeling. Try to feel the pain they're going through that might make them think and act the way they are. You know, in the same way people might be vitamin deficient or nutrient deficient, try to perceive how they might be love deficient right now. Because really, a lot of the most disharmonious behaviors we see out there are symptoms of LDS, love deficiency syndrome. Think about it. And we need to practice this stuff. We really need to be so busy working on ourselves. We don't have time to see the faults in others. And when we do see the faults in others, we need to discipline ourselves. One technique that I used before is if you find yourself negatively judging somebody, immediately force yourself to think about 10 things you like about that person. I've done this and it works like magic. Here's why. Once you raise your awareness of what you like and respect about that person, it's hard to get that out of your mind. So when you see them again, instead of having this triggered reaction and negative judgment, you're just going to actually like them more. because you're growing in appreciation and gratitude for them. It's very powerful to transform yourself. Every time you come up with a negative judgment against somebody, try to think of 10 things you like about them or you can appreciate about them. It can even be things that they're not doing that they could have done. You know, like, hey, I appreciate the fact they didn't hack my email. Or, you know, one thing I did once was I said, you know, they might be mean to other people, but they're really good to their pet dog. Imagine from their dog's perspective. That person is a hero to you because they just treat you like gold. So really try to find that angle to help you appreciate somebody. And I would submit to you, as Peace Pilgrim says, there's a spark of good in everybody if you dig deep enough. Try to find that spark and help it grow by seeing the best in others. So in summary, if we want a peaceful heart, we have to turn that judgment into universal love and acceptance. That doesn't mean we're a doormat. You know, bad behavior is still bad behavior, and there still has to be keeping healthy distance from bad behaviors, and there still has to be consequences for people that commit bad behaviors, but we can love them all the same. Doesn't mean that we're condoning bad behavior. It just means we recognize these are patterns, and there's an evolving soul that's still trying to figure it out underneath all of these disharmonious patterns. It's all about seeing the best in them, their God-given potential. In the end, you know, as Rumi said, beyond wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. In the end, we can challenge ourselves to see the perfection in everything, the same way we might see the perfection in a movie that has plot twists and turns and all different characters that add to the plot and the interest of it all. And we might appreciate that everybody has a role to play, and that a lot of the people who disturb us are fulfilling a role. In disturbing us, they're helping challenge us to bring out our highest potential. If we can get ourselves right on the inside, everything on the outside seems right. And one of the things I like to tell people is that they can say or do whatever they want, but there's one thing they'll never do. They'll never get me to negatively judge them, because I'll see the best in them no matter what. So this has been Raccoon Rambles. It's been an honor and pleasure hanging out with you tonight as we coach these little rascals on how to get over their negative judgmental tendencies. And they suffer it too. I see it. When other raccoons from other different groups come over, they snarl at them. They get very territorial about this deck. Princess Fiona the raccoon was trying to come up the stairs and they were intimidating her from the top. She didn't get a chance to get up here. There are some peanuts for her. I know she's waiting down there. So whoever you are, I just want you to be kind to others so you can learn to be kind to yourself, as Yogananda says. Because if we can relax our negative judgments of others and just accept them for who they are and where they are in their journey, we'll be able to do the same for ourselves, and you deserve that. You deserve a peaceful heart.